How to get over a breakup that you didn't want, step by step. If you're watching this video and you're fresh in a breakup that you didn't want, first off, I'm sorry and I empathize with you. I have been through this, many people have been through it, but hopefully this video will give you some comfort and some steps that you can take to help get on the road to recovery and to feel better and move forward with your life. I'm Fugget. That stands for the fittest underdog guru using intelligent tactics. And guys, I want this to be very informative, so I have notes to help guide this because I don't want to miss any points. I gave a lot of thought to this, both from my personal experience as well as a lot of the research and studying I've done over the years. Anytime that I've gone through a bad breakup or divorce, etc. So I may be reading from notes, but that's to make sure that you get the best content possible and I don't go off on rabbit trails. Okay, you don't know what that means? Look it up. All right, guys. First off, think about like the scenario. You know, you were with somebody special and you thought things were going well or fairly well, right? Thought it was solid, you felt secure, loved, you gave love, and what have you. And this is all very fresh and very raw to you. Maybe you've had some disagreements in your relationship, like any normal relationship, and you feel like you're on somewhat solid ground, and suddenly you feel like out of the blue, they don't want to be with you anymore. And you might get it through text, you might get it in person, after a fight, whatever the circumstance is. There's many in which people choose to handle the ending of a relationship, but it's never easy. And you might feel numbness or at first disbelief, like, is this real life? Like, I thought we were okay and we were going to make it. You might feel anger and confusion about the situation and not understand anything. So it's like you're living in an alternate universe. What's going on? How could this happen? You know, your whole world is turned upside down essentially. And you may scramble to try to fix and define what's going on and just get back to what was normal, what was comfortable, something that you felt like you really wanted, and you can't believe that this person, it's almost like an alien took over their body and changed everything, right? It's very tough. And you want to do anything you can to fix the relationship. So if you're going down this path, you'll start to really scramble and look for answers. And that's where you'll probably find, if not already know, what's called the 5 stages of grief. Now, depending on where you look, there's in some places 7, in some places 12 stages, but I think that all of them pretty much boil down to these 5. So let's go over those stages. And to begin, a lot of experts say that the stages of grief can last anywhere from 6 months to 4 years. Don't let that discourage you, okay? There's really no way that you're going to bypass the stages of grief and take a magical pill and be okay with yourself. And we'll get into that with self-soothing and unhealthy habits that could actually delay or completely diminish your ability to heal and move forward. So the 5 stages are anger, denial, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So these 5 stages, they don't start at 1 and go to 5, so you don't finish it in like phases, okay? You'll experience these in varying intensities, varying amounts, and at different times. So if you're trying to look for where you are on a continuum, it's really not that simple. And you're going to find that you're going to find high highs and low lows as you go through them. And you might feel okay for 5 minutes where you just had a phone call with a friend, they made you feel so much better. you hang up the phone, and within 30 seconds, you're in tears and like a pile of mush on the floor, just sobbing like an infant. And that's okay. So denial, going through denial is really, to define it, like the disbelief, the shock, the numbness, as a self-preservation mechanism kicks in within you. Like, this isn't real. And you're just like at a loss. You might be at a loss for words, and then you might be very wordy as you try to come to grips with what's going on. You know, it's like an emergency situation where some people step up, some people panic. There's all types of denial that happens when, you know, you go through something that, you know, when you're in a situation where you feel that you've got a partner that has your back, they're your best friend, they're who you love, you've confided so much in them, they've confided in you, and you felt a sense of security because you were in this committed thing that you maybe had plans. You thought, I'm going to have children with them. We already know where we're going to retire. We know all these things, right? But now it's all like, all the rules have changed, right? Everything that you felt safe and secure in has now been turned upside down, and you don't know what to do. There's anger that happens. There's grief from feeling betrayed. You know, you feel so sad that somebody that you give your all to has decided that they don't want to be with you, or they don't love you anymore. And it's a complete change and shift to your world, your patterns of everyday life, the things that you were used to. Perhaps you lived together. Maybe you always did the same things together. You went to sporting events, or you watched sporting events or movies or shows, the same music you might have enjoyed, maybe the same group of friends. All of this stuff now is never going to be the same to you. And that's very, it really can provoke a lot of anger in you. You know, you start to look for and assign blame, whether to yourself or to the partner. You know, did somebody sabotage it? Who's this? Is there another person in their life? And you start to get really angry about that. Who stole your love from you, right? You start to wonder what I could have done differently. You know, maybe you knew what you needed to do differently. Perhaps it was something that was the deal breaker from your partner, who communicated to you over and over that they wanted you to stop doing this or that, or to change. And perhaps it was a unhealthy habit that you've also wanted to change, but it's tough for you. Or maybe you just didn't care to change, and it's something that maybe you shouldn't change. Maybe it's a part of your personality and who you are that this person didn't like, and it ended up being one of the deal breakers for them. Or, you know, perhaps it's something that another person in your future is going to really adore about you. You really don't know. There's the bargaining, where you'll start to try to make a deal, like with the partner. Like, I promise I'll change. I'll do whatever it takes. You know, you'll completely turn into like this pliable putty now that will do whatever the other person wants, because at the end of the day, you want them back in your life, and you'll do anything possible to make that happen, and make very emotionally charged and sometimes irrational decisions in an effort to get them back. But there's just a point where people reach where they don't want to be with another person, and a lot of times that bargaining isn't going to change anything, because it's gotten to this point where they don't want to be with you for whatever reason. But in the bargaining, it could be a promise to God or the universe, you know, if you bring them back to me, you know, I promise to do this or that. And that's just part of the stage of grief that a lot of us go through. And a lot of times when that doesn't work, then we start to seek a way to try to eliminate pain, right? So some people will turn to alcohol, you know, to soothe, or medication, or unhealthy behaviors, perhaps an eating disorder, whether it's eating or not eating in unhealthy amounts, which then it gives you temporary pain relief, but then there's the guilt and shame that follows because you're showing a lack of self-control, and it's only like a band-aid on a flesh wound where it needs surgery, it needs stitches, it needs disinfectant, and you're just giving yourself a temporary soothe from a long-term problem that needs to be fixed, right? You need healing. Depression is one of the stages of grief where you want things back the way they were, because right now you went from a place of certainty to now uncertainty, and you are depressed about it because it's something you cannot change, right? You are so hyper focused on fixing and healing and getting back to where you were. You start to romanticize and overly look at the positives of the relationship and how great they were. But in the long term, you're going to see the relationship for what it was. Once your heart is healing and you're more in your logical side, you'll start to look at it in a balanced way and see the good and the bad in the relationship. And I don't think you should ever look at a relationship that was in your past as either all good or bad, because it wasn't. There was a lot of both, right? During this time of healing and getting back to a sense of normalcy and being happy, you're going to feel that loss in that it was perfect, everything was great, they were the best thing that ever happened to me, and you're forgetting the bad things that caused the breakup and maybe the incompatibilities that you really had with this person. And then finally, there's that acceptance, right? You'll have at some point new patterns, new normals, new behaviors that are now your new everyday, because you've had to learn to live with this new reality that you're no longer with this person, and the things that you shared in common are now gone, and you're looking now at what are your new everyday behaviors. And it's very painful, right? It's like learning a new trade or going to school or learning a new language, right? It's going to take time, and it's going to be a slow process. It's as much as you want to speed it up and expedite the process and get to the next love in your life, or to just feel okay, right? That you don't have that extreme anxiety, that lump in your throat where you just can't get rid of that, right? You're up all night, you're just restless and sweating, like you're looking for what you can do that's going to fix the problem. What's the one thing I could have said? What's the one, maybe I'll write a letter, and when they hear how much I love them, they'll change their mind. You'll start to think of all these things you can do, and you won't be able to turn it off. It's horrible. Where you'll be, if I send this gift, they said I never sent flowers, so I'm going to send 3 dozen roses. You're trying to overcompensate for what you didn't do before. And to the person who broke up with you, it, in your mind, you think that it's like they're going to go, oh, and melt their heart and they'll take you back. But it's not just as simple as some of their little pet peeves of what you didn't do. There's probably a combination of things. And the other thing is, you may never know exactly why they broke up with you, because a lot of times people don't necessarily want to hurt your feelings. So there might have been some issues that they, I'll put it this way, maybe you thought you were on the same page with them, but maybe they did love you, but maybe they knew that you weren't the one for them, but didn't say it, right? You don't really ever 100% know what somebody really wants, what their true intentions are. And, love is a gamble, but it's worth it. I know it doesn't feel like it now, but you will love again. So these things, like I said, come in no particular order. There's high highs, low lows, and in the course of even a day, or dare I say an hour, you may feel all of those stages. And you feel like you're starting to heal, and then you feel worse. Then you feel a little bit better. You might feel really angry, then you feel really empathetic and, love them to the moon, and then hate them and wish death on them. It's crazy. You might have a conversation with a trusted friend or family member and start by defending them, how great they are, how great they were. And the very next breath, you're saying how they were the worst person in the world and remembering all of the bad things about them, to then start to break down and cry and say, what am I going to do? I would do anything to have them back. It's very irrational, and it's a roller coaster, an emotional roller coaster. And it's really important for family or friends to understand, and a lot of them will, if they've been through breakups, they'll know how to help you. So I encourage you to seek out those that are closest in your life, that are patient, that hopefully have been through this, and they can give you at least a little bit of comfort in knowing that you're not alone, and they've survived, and so will you. So I have some tips that I found very helpful that I think sometimes I'll see touched upon, and other times I won't, and I'll just try to give a personal perspective to them as well. But one of my tips is, the first thing when the breakup happens is put the reminders and memories away. Okay, don't necessarily just throw it all away, because during your stages, you're gonna wish that you have them back for that moment. You just, why did I throw out all the pictures of them? I wish I could just see his face, and I can't, his or her face. And then you'll start the social media stalking. So what I would suggest is to put them away, or give it to a friend or family member, so that you can't destroy it or do anything that you're going to regret later on, because you never know, you might just get back with them, and then you'll feel really bad about getting rid of all of those things. So put them away for now. You can't be trusted to make big life decisions right now. It's you're in a very raw place, and you just need to treat yourself like you're a patient in the hospital, like you're admitted in the hospital, and you're there to heal. You're there to get medication. You're there to rest. And believe me, the emotional toll and the physical toll that the healing from a breakup can take is a lot like grieving a death, or it is like a sickness in your body, where you need to give extra care and tenderness and attention to yourself. If you need to sleep more, do some things that are going to be healthy habits and healthy behaviors that are going to get you building up your immune system, feeling better physically, feeling better about yourself. So, those emotions are raw, and again, the intensity will vary. And like I said, never say never. Another tip is to reconnect with yourself. Okay, you gave up a big part of yourself in some ways that you may not even realize until now, to merge with this other person and create this new life, right? And now is the time, as you're healing and going through these stages of grief, to rediscover who you are, right? Independent of anybody else. And you want to become a person that you love. You need to learn to love yourself. Maybe you never did, or maybe you feel that happiness is found in a relationship. And I do think that relationships are very beneficial in a lot of ways for us, but I think that there's an unhealthy obsession with loving being in love. You're in love with the idea of being in love. And perhaps you have to take a step back and course correct and look at yourself and say, do I have healthy and rational, an irrational ideal of what love is, and how, where it fits in my life? You want to bring a whole, complete, healthy person to the table when you meet somebody that's of high value, that you have feelings for, or that you see a future with, so that you don't repeat any bad behaviors or habits that potentially led or were a contributing factor in your breakup as it goes. So the other thing is, even though it might seem counterintuitive at the time, but you need to allow yourself to grieve, right? Sometimes it'll just be explosive, uncontrolled, out of nowhere grieving or crying, right? And just sadness. And that's okay, because I think and I feel that when you feel that, you shouldn't run away from the pain. And that'll be your instinct, like if you touch a hot stovetop, your immediate reaction is to take your hand away from the pain. And this is a different kind of pain. It's a pain that through the crying and feeling the hurt, it's a cleansing process, right? It's just purging it from you, and it's painful as it leaves, but it's going to birth new life. Think about a tree. Once a season is done and the tree needs to be pruned, or it loses its leaves or branches that are dead, this in that way is dead. It's not producing life. It's no longer serving both you and your partner any longer, even though it wasn't something that you saw as diseased or toxic or not edifying or valuable to you. It's obvious now that the other person did, and there's nothing you can do about it but just try to say, okay, well, this is reality, and I know that when I prune the tree, when the leaves fall, the season changes, there will be a springtime, there will be the birth, a new life, and it'll be fresh, new, and better than it was before. But that's only seen in hindsight, unfortunately. So make room for that new growth. It's okay. Take comfort in knowing that you are truly not alone. Others have went through this and they've survived. When my parents passed, I relied on friends and family that have also lost their parents, and they understood the pain of that, and they understood the grieving and the new normal that came with it. And by confiding in and listening to their stories, that can bring you comfort, because there's a sense of community there and understanding and empathy that you might not get from somebody who's never been through that type of loss before. They can understand the concept of it or the idea of it, but to really feel it and to go through it are two different things. The next thing is really about dating again, right? You may not feel like you ever want to date again, and that's okay. If that desire is not there yet, and it may not be for a while, it might be right around the corner for you. You just don't know. That's one of the tough things about love and the healing process, is you never know when you're going to meet that next great person that is going to knock your socks off and make you feel better and be very happy that you're no longer with your ex. But there's definitely a point in time where I know when you're going through those early stages of grief, some people want to date immediately, and usually that's what we call a rebound relationship, where you're just trying to hang on to anybody to feel a sense of love or togetherness. And then you might find yourself making some irrational or bad choices in partners that aren't necessarily good for you, or you might be doing the dating app, just hooking up and just trying to fill your time with the company of others in an effort, like you might use drugs or alcohol, to self-soothe. And so you've got to be careful with that one. But I do think that it is healthy to start slowly, casually, opening yourself up to the possibilities. It'll feel weird at first. It's like if you've got a familiar, a pair of gloves that you really love to wear, or I'll say when I went through this before, it's like taking a glove that's meant for the left hand and putting it on the right? It fits, but it doesn't feel the same. You've got inside jokes, and you've got memories and habits and things that were bonding between you and your partner that you might short-term try to then project on another person. They're not going to be just like your partner. for the good and the bad. They're going to be different. And at first, it's going to be very strange, but you've got to remember that when you first met your ex, when you first got together, there was this fresh and new and different with them as well. And so it's just a natural part of getting to know people and building a relationship with them, or realizing that they're not for you. So that's something that, depending on how long you've been in the relationship with your now ex, it might take you longer, especially if it was like a marriage or, a relationship where it was, a year, 2, 3 years. It's gonna potentially take you longer to recover from that and then feel normal again with somebody new. So, in dating others. This whole process of the stages of grief and step by step getting back to feeling better again, feeling normal, feeling good about your life, and being in love again it's simple on paper, but it's not easy in practice. Again, these stages come and go in various intensities and amounts. And again, early on, you're going to feel them all rapid fire, turnover of happiness, sadness, joy, anger, regret, betrayal, all those things. Again, they're very raw, but like anything else, over time, you heal and you move forward. And understanding how the process is chaotic and it seems disjointed, and you can't just map it out or have it like on a spreadsheet in your head of, okay, this is what's going to happen, and you can't hit a fast forward button and get to the end of healing. When you try to do that, you do yourself an injustice, because there's a lot of growth that's had in experiencing the pain, the self-reflection, the getting to know other people, the relying and building the connectivity with the people in your life that are important to you. And it's all part of the human experience. We go through a lot in this life. You will experience many highs and many lows. And if you think about it from like the perspective of a movie, a movie has its really high points, the great moments, the sad parts, and then the happily ever after. And life, I think if you look at it as the acceptance of all of the emotions, there's a reason you have them. There's a reason you have the propensity to have extreme joy, extreme sadness. They all have a purpose in your life to make you better if you choose to have the mindset of, I am going to be okay. I'm going to survive, even though I don't feel like it, even though I feel like the world's against me, even though I feel like this was an injustice, that my love was pulled from me. Believe me, you will meet and date better for you, and you'll be much happier when you go through those processes and you take the steps to find happiness. If you seek it, you will find it. I promise you. If you have any questions, please hit me up with that. I'd love to help you out in your specific situation, because I know that some of this information can be general, but I wanted to try to tackle it from a wide perspective. And then again, it always comes down to, it depends. So please hit me up if you have questions. And again, if you don't, I hope that this helped you. I know there's a lot of information out there, but I hope that for some of you, it speaks to you. And even if I help one of you, it was worth it. Take care, you guys. Like, share, subscribe if you like the content, and I'll see you soon.